what God revealed to the Triune Mercury, what we would call Hermes Trismegistus or Thoth. Hermes Trismegistus was a man who lived during 25,000 BC to 20,000 BC. We do not have enough information about his life, but the most important thing is that according to reports we have, and after a revelation made to him by God, he wrote the things he learned and saw in 42 books. From these books we have a few things in our hands, as it is said that they were in the Library of Alexandria of ancient Egypt and were burned or hidden at the time of the burning of the library, so that no one would know the truth about the relationship of the Great Spirit with even today's Christianity. You see in them, as you will see, there is evidence that shows that not only did people in those years know God, but they knew things that we are learning just now. Hermes had Asclepius as his disciple, to whom he taught what we knew about when he tried to teach people things about the one God, and he was killed by Zeus, who did not want all this to be revealed to the world. So as the texts were forbidden from being read, few paid attention to them, and fortunately for us, they were copied so that we are still able to study them today. So in this article, we'll look to see some of these texts with numbered comments to make them more understandable. So let's start with the first part, as the second will follow in the second article. The writer says, as I was contemplating the subject of the creation of beings one day, with my powers meteoric as if I had fallen into a deep sleep or psychic strain, physical strain, with my paralyzed senses, I heard an oversized, unlimited being calling me by name and saying to me, "What do you want to see, learn, and meet, Mercury? Who are you?" I asked him. "Bimandros, the mind of authority," he said. 1. Hermes saw an existence which he could not comprehend with his senses. 2. Mind of authority, probably what we would call divine providence. I know what you want to know, and I'm with you everywhere. And I tell him I want to know about beings, to understand nature, to know God, how I want to hear you. And he answers, "Keep in mind what you want to learn, and I will teach you." With that, he said, he was transformed, and in the blink of an eye, everything opened in front of me. I then saw a view flooded with light, and was fascinated. After a while, I saw downhill darkness, partly born on one side, awesome and cold in a spiritual form, a spiral form. I also saw that darkness turned into a liquid nature, unimaginably turbulent, from the depths of which came fiery smoke, and I heard an unheard of bursting sound and an inarticulate roar in the voice of fire. And from the light, the holy word prevailed in the wet nature, and an unrestrained fire sprang from it upwards. It was light and penetrated, and at the same time effective. And the air, as it was lit, followed the spirit and started from the earth, and the water went up by itself towards the fire, giving the impression that it was hanging from it. The earth and water remained mixed on their own, so that the earth could not be separated from the water, and as they moved with the spiritual word that influenced them, they made sounds. And the shepherd says to me, "Did you understand this vision?" I told him I would understand. That light said, "I am the mind, your God, who pre-exists from the liquid nature created by darkness, and the luminous word created by the mind is the Son of God." 3. The word saint, as we see, has existed since ancient times. 4. The mixed land and water, as we see, exist in the Greek literature before the Old Testament. 5. He speaks of God. 6. God of all ages. 7. The terminology of Christianity, we see pre-existence. Christ is also called the Word of God here. How did this happen, I say? Learned from the following: what sees and hears from within us is the word of the Lord, and the mind is God the Father. They are inseparable from each other, as their union is life. "Thank you," I said, "but to perceive the light and to recognize it." And after telling me this, he looked me in the eyes for a long time, making me tremble at the sight of him. And when I looked up, I saw with my mind that the light was among innumerable forces, that a vast world had been created, that the fire was surrounded by some enormous force gaining stability. I thought of all this, seeing them with the word of Pimandros, and Pimandros meaning the shepherd, and while Pimenes means shepherd, and while I was amazed, he tells me again, with your mind you saw this archetypal form that precedes the infinite beginning. This is what Pimandros told me. And the elements of nature I ask where they were created, and he answers me about them. From the will of God, who took the word, and seeing the beautiful order of the world, imitated him, since she too was transformed. The world meaning ye is a feminine article in the beginning. That's why it's she too, okay? Was transformed into the world using her own creations and elements, the souls. 8. God the Father is indivisible from the Son and the Word of the Father. 9. By fire he means energy. 10. Archetypal energy is energy, existence, if you will, from the universe was formed. Before the universe was formed. 11. The will of God created the souls. And the God mind, who has no sex, since he is life and light, created with the word another creator mind, who as a god of fire and spirit created 7 other rulers, who contained in circles the perceptible world, and their rule is called Imarmeni. From the somewhat heavy elements immediately jumped the word of God to the pure creation of nature, and united with the creator mind, as they are composed of the same substance, and thus the heavier elements of nature were left without logic to consist only of matter. And the creator mind, together with the word, who encloses the circles and rotates them with noise, turned his own creations and let them rotate from an unlimited beginning to an infinite end. As they start from the point where they stop. 12. This position regarding the lack of sex in relation to God should be taken for granted, since the concept of sex is important for imperfect beings who reproduce from complex processes. 13. The creator mind that was created as the old of all days, as Enoch says, or if you will, the first Elohim, who was created with only one thought of God, and he is the God of energy. 14. The first Elohim created 7 governors. These rulers are spiritual creatures who control 7 heavens, as Orthodoxy says, or the 7 spheres contained in the perceptible world. They are not angels, but we could say that they are some kind of mechanisms beyond our own intellect, and they make sure that everything moves on the basis of Imarmeni, the plan of God in which we all live. The creator of the mind is now called the God of energy, and the mind, that is, it has an energy body, but also a spirit. 15. It's clarified that God is one thing and the creator mind is another. 16. The creator mind also has its own creations. 17. It speaks of an endless universe. At this point, I consider it appropriate, although we'll see it in a future article, to quote the prayer of Mercury, the Triune, for God thousands of years ago. This is what it was. Holy God and Father of all, Holy God whose will is realized through his own powers, Holy God who desires to be recognized and is recognized by his will, who are the saint, who with your word gave recommendation to the beings, who are a saint with all nature was created as your image. You are a saint who was not shaped by nature. Saint, you are the strongest of all forces. You are the saint, the supreme of all supremacy. You are the saint, the highest of praise. Accept the pure sacrifices expressed in words from the soul and the heart, which is lifted up to you, cried out, shut up, manifested in silence. Enlighten and strengthen me as I ask you not to fall outside the knowledge related to our essence, and with this grace I will enlighten those of my race who are in ignorance, my brothers and your sons. That is why I believe and become a witness. I adhere to life and light. You are glorified, Father. Your man wants to be sanctified with you as you have given him all the power. Finally, a source in which you can read the text followed in Greek and Latin. And this is for a Greek article. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.